Let's talk more now about Donald Trump's relationship with the news media. Fox News digital politics editor Chris Stirewalt joins us now. Chris, this is truly one of the more unusual moves we've seen in the transition. Mr. Trump yesterday calling these high-ranking executives and influential anchors from all the leading networks to Trump Tower for a meeting. And as a wise writer once said, they thought they were coming in for a haircut, but they came away with their throats slit. What's behind this strategy by Trump?
Well, every president-elect throughout history, or at least the history of the modern mass media, has the love-hate relationship with the press. You want to get your message out. You want people to hear what you're saying in the broadest possible way, but also, of course, you don't want the story shaped in a way that's not flattering to you. So what the president has to offer the press as an inducement is access. If you're nice, if you're fair, if you treat me the way that I think I ought to be treated, then I'll let you in. I will give briefings. I will hold press conferences. I will let you follow me around. And if you don't, I'll cut off access.
Right.
We certainly saw this with President Obama and his predecessors.
And then Trump shortly thereafter released a video outlining his first executive actions as a president. This is not the first administration, obviously, that has excoriated the press and then tried to bypass the press. You mentioned the Obama administration.
The great hope, the great and persistent hope of every president is to be able to go around the press and talk over the heads of the people here inside the Washington bubble to the broader electorate. Get your message out. Now, Barack Obama tried that at the beginning of his presidency, using YouTube videos and other things. He said he was going to talk directly to voters, but in reality, in the end, he needed mass media to get the message out, and he had to come up with, though at times challenging and at times contentious, some sort of a working arrangement with the reporters who cover him.
But this is a more advanced digital age right now. We're seeing this balkanization of reporting where people are picking out the news outlets that conform to their views. Can he bypass the press in the way he might be signaling?
I think to a greater degree than President Obama, and certainly when it comes to keeping his base engaged. I think what you will see from President Trump when he is in office is, yes, to continue to wage his war with the mainstream press, but also to use his social media presence and use favored outlets like Breitbart and others that have curried favor with him and are even part of his administration indirectly, that those folks will carry the message to the core supporters. The challenge for every president, though, isn't how do you talk to your core, it's how do you spread your message to a larger audience and get results.
And then came today's meeting with the New York Times at the New York Times building, which Trump initially canceled, tweeting, "I canceled today's meeting," with a failing at New York Times when the terms and conditions of the meeting were changed at the last moment. Not nice. And then he rescheduled the meeting at the New York Times building.
It's quite a game of chicken they're playing, isn't it? The press needs Trump, and they need access to cover him. Trump needs the press, but he doesn't like their coverage. So he's playing this game of chicken about how far can he go in assailing and condemning the establishment press, while at the same time getting the coverage that he needs. And I think today's meeting was a reflection of that.
In the meantime, the public editor of the New York Times recently wrote that the paper and the media were too tough on Trump supporters. And this is a quote: "The media is at fault, too, for turning his remarks into a grim caricature that it applied to those who backed him." And to that point, the media outlets are going wall to wall with coverage of this National Policy Institute meeting at the Reagan Building over the weekend in Washington, a group which describes itself as an independent organization dedicated to the heritage, identity, and future of the people of European descent in the United States. Troubling sight of people doing the hands in a Heil gesture. What do you make of that?
Well, look, the part of Trump's claim against the press is that they are saying that even though there have been racist white nationalists and other troglodytes in our midst for these many years, that somehow their rediscovery of these folks, since they like Trump and are using Trump to get attention, so here's the press paying attention to these unsavory characters and in an effort to try to hurt Trump in some cases. Trump says, no way, that's no good. And there's an interesting side effect. And the interesting side effect is that in an effort to hurt Trump or hold out Trump for this, we are seeing the normalization, to use the favorite phrase of today, of conduct that we previously knew wasn't alt-right, but was in fact quasi-fascist or white nationalist or just plain racist. And we're seeing this behavior become normalized through its coverage, all as part of this effort to try to define Trump by some as a white nationalist himself.
And where's the coverage raises the question of where's the coverage of every progressive extremist who issued death threats, praised Stalin or Mao, or who carried a protest sign that read Bush Hitler or George W. with the noose around his neck. We're not seeing too much of that.
No.
Did not see too much coverage of that, I should say.
And this is all part of the ongoing skirmish that you'll see between Trump and the press. As he has always said, if you treat me nice, I'll be nice to you. Unfortunately for him, the appropriate nature between the press and the president is an adversarial one. People who are in power ought to be held to account, and that's our job. That's what we're supposed to do here, is make sure that people are telling the truth, abiding by their promises, and following the rules, and that will make for some difficult times in the days ahead.
Chris Stirewalt, good to see you.
You bet.